Friends, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project. This is Huck, our executive producer of the show. The little queen bee. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. She goes, Dad, scratch my head. She likes it right there. It feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. Says, don't stop, keep going. And then rub my ears. That's the other thing she likes. Yeah, you pretty girl. Yeah, okay, some more, okay. All right, I gotta get going, otherwise you're gonna yell at me. Yeah, I know. She gives me that look like, what are you doing? Don't stop. All right. So, I guess I better do this, otherwise she'll get really mad. This is Huck TV. It's her channel. She's the queen princess, and away we go. We got a interesting one for you today. Probably one of the more unusual ones I've ever told you about. One case, but it's quite a bit different than anything I've talked about, and it's a national park case. So, for starters, somebody sent me something that all of you are going to want to hear. And it's a feel-good story, and it kind of has to do with Huck, but kind of not. So Huck is 3 years old. Her litter had 10 puppies. When I got there, there were 6 left. And I doubt the dog I'm going to tell you about was part of that, part of her family. But here's the story. Article of September 23rd of this year, 2025. Headlines: Purina honors blind Northern Ontario dog who saved his family from fire. A husband and wife from St. Charles, Ontario say they're alive today thanks to Toff. Their blind Great Pyrenees, yeah, I can't make this up, there's Toff, who woke them up last summer when fire broke out in their home. For his efforts, Toff is one of 2 Canadian dogs to be inducted into the 2025 Purina Animal Hall of Fame. Judy Spry, 38, was jolted awake on July 16th in her basement suite by her pup. At just 3 years old, Toff heightened senses had detected smoke, and his relentless barking alerted Judy and her husband Chris to the fire spreading upstairs. A news release from Purina said on Tuesday. Judy and Chris managed to escape the fire along with their husky mix, Aya and Toff. Pulling Toff, who weighs nearly 100 pounds, to safety required quick thinking. A garden hose fashioned into a harness, and help from a neighbor who also is a volunteer firefighter. Tragically, Judy's parents and their pets did not survive the fire despite heartbreaking loss. Judy credits Toff with saving her and Chris's life. He's my hero. He's my hero dog, Judy said in a release. If it wasn't for him, we would have probably died from smoke too. Today, Chris and Judy are rebuilding their lives, deeply grateful for the blind dog whose instincts and bravery spared them from flames, the release said. Since its inception in '68, Purina's Animal Hall of Fame has recognized 196 animals, including 168 dogs, 27 cats, and a horse, for life-saving acts of heroism. Toff enters the Hall of Fame with Knight, a Doberman from Cochrane, Alberta, who saved his owner from a grizzly bear that was charging at him full speed. Together, Knight and Toff join a distinguished legacy of pets recognized through the Purina Hall of Fame. Their remarkable stories remind us that humans and animals are truly better together, connected by bonds of trust and bravery. As Canadians reflect on this year's inductees, these heroic dogs stand as powerful examples of the life-saving bond between pets and people. Amen to that. They never did explain how Toff became blind, but I can tell you, my hearing's pretty decent for being an older man. And Huck and I will be somewhere and I don't hear anything. And Huck hears it, runs over and starts staring. And sure enough, something comes out of the woods. I don't know how. It wasn't smell because there was a window between us and the animal. So I'm not sure. Her hearing is really, really good. Really good. And obviously her sense of smell. It's phenomenal. And Huck and I have been on some pretty cool hikes as of late. And when you're hiking, usually during the day, you'll maybe walk into an area where deer are bedded down at the hot point of the day. And sometimes we walk off trail and we'll spook them. And it actually spooks Huck just as much as it spooks the deer, because all of a sudden they're jumping all up right in front of her and tearing off. And she weighs 100 pounds, just like Toph. And sometimes she forgets that Dad's with her and she's on a leash. And if you're not ready, it'll jerk you right off your feet. But that's just her instincts, and she's doing a lot better about that. So on with the show. The story has to do with a man named Christopher Wherstatler. 21 years old, went missing June 7th, 1997. And he lived in Port Angeles, Washington, at the far north end of Olympic National Park and the Olympic Peninsula. He had a girlfriend. And on June 2nd, the girlfriend dropped him off at the Whiskey Bend trailhead. This would have been a Monday in Olympic National Park. He told her he was thinking about a 4 or 5 day backpacking jaunt through there, and told her he would hike into Hume's Ranch and hitchhike home on Saturday at the latest. And he also said he might hike the Wolf Creek Trail, which leads to Hurricane Ridge. Chris had no backwoods navigational experience that anyone knew about. And it was also doubtful he had spent any time camping in the woods overnight. He had a backpack that was filled with food, sleeping bag, all the essentials for spending the night. Now, Chris has also been a U.S. Army veteran and did time in Baghdad. That's kind of the overlay of him. He was born and raised in Ohio. You're a pretty girl. Yeah. And the thing about the Olympic Peninsula, and specifically Olympic National Park, the terrain can vary greatly. The climate in the valleys varies greatly. There's huge altitudinal gains at times. I've spent a lot of time there, and parts of it are pretty darn spooky, I gotta say. So his girlfriend drops him off. He says that he's going to get a ride home by hitchhiking. This is Chris. Well, so he gets dropped off June 2nd. June 3rd, he wandered up to a national park ranger at the Elkhorn Ranger Station. And Elkhorn is about 13 miles upriver from Whiskey Bend trailhead, 10 miles above Hume's Ranch. So in just one day, he made a lot of progress. He went over 10 miles. And where this ranger was at, he was with a trail crew that was doing some maintenance. And he asked the guys about his location. And the ranger said that I explained it to him where he was, but I didn't really think he understood it. That's a problem. The problem is that when you're on the trail, it's your job to know where you're at. There's a lot of ways to do that. First of all, if he's in the military, he should know how to use a compass. If you don't know how to use a compass, there's actually classes online and at outdoor shops that teach you how to use it. And that's critical. Now, obviously, compass is old school, but it still works really good. And you also now have GPS trail guides right on a GPS guide that you can hold in your hand. It's almost like a little phone. You can get them on your phone, and they'll tell you where you're at. So that was the first indication that something was wrong, June 3rd. So then everything kind of goes, nobody sees or hears from him. Now, nobody thought anything was wrong on June 3rd because he was supposed to be backpacking. This was just research that was done later on that found this out. On June 7th, Chris was supposed to get a ride out of there, out of the national park and home. He didn't arrive at home. His girlfriend kind of thought, well, maybe he's spending an extra day, maybe something's wrong, so she waited till the 8th, till the end of the day on the 8th, and then reported him as a missing person. With your significant other in the woods, you guys need to come to an agreement. At this day, at this time, if I'm not home, you're calling emergency services. 12 hours can mean the difference between life and death. 36 hours can definitely mean it. So you need to say, if you're not home at 4 o'clock Friday, I'm calling the Rangers. Agree? Agree. No ambiguity, done. So on June 8th, Chris's girlfriend waited, calls law enforcement, gets a hold of the National Park Service Rangers, National Park Service Police, and they come out and they meet with her. And she gives them the information that Chris gave her. And that was, there were 2 trails that he might be on. And he said he might hike the Wolf Creek Trail, which leads to Hurricane Ridge. And he would like to hike to Hume's Ranch. And he kind of gave her info about 2 trails. So on the following day, June 9th, Rangers start to get people together, call for resources. And the Rangers and the teams were briefed about where they thought Chris might be. They knew he was real healthy. They knew he was young. And so the survivability factor goes way up. Weather was good. Nothing really unusual. Everything looked positive. Well, on that June 10th, and Rangers checked their logs, and Chris never completed a backcountry permit. This is a permit that outlines where you're going, when you're going to come back, the route you're going to take, and this goes to the National Park Service. He never completed one. National Park Service assigned Senior Ranger Gary Gissel to be in charge of the search. Gary had a meeting with the press and said that he had 3 search and rescue dogs on site, along with 2 helicopters and 15 ground pounders. That's a pretty good response in 24 hours, I gotta say. Helicopters flying overhead. Key point. If you're lost in the woods, what do? You find an open clearing somewhere, you stay there, and you get out your bright orange poncho that I've told you to buy before. Comes in a little packet about this big, weighs next to nothing. It's plastic. You open it up, and it'll completely cover you in a rainstorm. And if you're in this clearing and you're lost, you take that bright orange poncho and you wave it in a circle above your head. Chances are the helicopter's going to see it. He didn't have the poncho. And he wasn't in a clearing, obviously. The next day, June 11th, they had 25 ground searchers, 7 dog teams, 1 helicopter was still on scene, and they were requesting more services to come in. Now, sometimes you ask yourself, hey, why would a helicopter be called off when they're looking for somebody? I agree that human life is more important than anything else. But a lot of times these helicopters will be called off to work a fire. Don't know why that one was called off. June 12th, Kitsap-based Olympic National Park Mountain Rescue Team, a search team was called in. They joined National Park Service Rangers, and the Chatham County Rescue Team was also on site. This is the first part of the weird stuff that happened on this event, and this is weird. Newspapers called this an ironic coincidence. On June 11th, an issue of the Sun newspaper had Chris's story of being missing. And right next to the missing story about Chris was Chris's stepfather's obituary. Don Helm of Gig Harbor died the same day his stepson Chris was seen by an Olympic National Park employee 11.5 miles up the Elwha River Trail. Chris obviously knew nothing about this. He was lost. Well, he wasn't lost then, but he also had no communication device. Nobody knew anyone was looking for him. So that's pretty weird. Right next to each other in the paper. Now the question was, on June 12th, were they both dead? NPS was still searching the areas that Chris told his girlfriend that he would hike, the trails. They weren't having any luck. Canines weren't picking up any scent. And they were very confused by this. Olympic National Park sits on the far western edge of Washington, established in 1938. It has 1,441 square miles. It's big. In 2024, there were 3.7 million visitors. You know, and this is something I don't understand this. Maybe somebody knows. So some parks require you to pay to get in. Glacier National Park is one, right here in my backyard. But there's many parts of Olympic that you can get into without going through a pay station. So how do they know how many people really went there? I think it's a guess. So in the park you can do mountain climbing, and they have some awesome mountain peaks. Hiking, fishing, birding, camping, backpacking. And they have several different climate zones. They have a lot of boardwalks through the park. Kind of cool. Now, at the top up here, this is Port Angeles, Washington, right here. Directly across is Vancouver Island. This is the area that Chris is going to try to get into. And that's a long hike. But this is Olympic National Park right here. So searchers swept that entire Elwha Trail and all the tributaries, branch trails, thinking that he must be on there somewhere because he told his girlfriend. Now, Chris is the second hiker to disappear in 5 years in the park. Remember, I did a whole segment about missing physicists. And one of those cases I did was on Stefan Bissert from Germany, and he was going to school in Oregon. Remember that? Never found. Very, very sad story. Now, on June 13th, 40 searchers focused on the area between Elkhorn Ranger Station and the upper Elwha River and the area around Hayes Cabin. Ranger Gassell stated that the search and rescue will continue. So, Chris reported missing June 8th. They're now June 13th. That's 5 days in. Standard search and rescue is 7 days. June 14th, search and rescue continuing in that Elwha River drainage. 50 park rangers. They got other rangers from Mount Rainier to help. And they had 10 dog teams. That's very unusual that a national park would get that many dogs, but they had them. And they had 50 ground pounders, 2 helicopters. Park administrators said that the search and rescue would continue through the weekend and then they'd have to reevaluate. Now, hold on to your taters. This is where the story gets very odd. In fact, I've never heard of this. June 15th. Chris is supposed to be home June 8th. So, a full 7 days he's been missing. In the early morning hours, majority of the Park Service and search and rescue teams had camped out overnight 12 miles up the trail from the Whiskey Bend trailhead. Searchers wanted to get an early start the next day, so they stayed the night in the woods. Rather than having to hike 12 miles in, 12 miles out, they just said, let's stay here for a few days. And they all camped out in this one area. A few of the rangers wake up real early. And they hear somebody walking around camp. And they turn around, and to their utter astonishment, there's Chris standing in the middle of camp. They said he looked vastly different than any of his photos because he had lost 25 pounds. Looked unkept. Rangers took Chris aside, gave him a meal, gave him some water. Asked him, how'd you get here? What happened? All the stuff you and I would ask. He stated he got disoriented on his 3rd or 4th day. He said he knew he had to stay in one place, so he established a camp. He said on June 13th he got thirsty and went out looking for some water, got lost again and couldn't find his way back to camp. Stop right there. Sometimes, when I'm going into an area, here's the best one, berry picking. I find a great berry patch somewhere, and I want to come back to it and find it. Sometimes I carry some red ribbon, and every 100 feet I'll tie a little piece of ribbon on a branch. So when I come back the next day, I'll find it, and I'll take the ribbon off when I'm walking out. Using that same method, just break off branches on the trail that you're walking in and out of trying to find water so you can find your way back to your camp. It usually works. So he explains this to the rangers, and he said, yeah, when I got lost that last time, I've just been wandering for 2 days, 3 days. He says, what day is it? He said that he hadn't eaten in 4 or 5 days when he couldn't find his camp and just went cross country. Now here's the bizarre part. And I don't care what anybody says, I think it's bizarre. During his cross country trek, when he was completely lost, he says he started to hear bagpipe and flute music, kind of off in the distance, he said. He says it wasn't all around him, it was just off in the distance. So So he said he started to walk towards it. He said he could never get real close to it. He said that he walked through the night, and in the morning he walked into the Rangers camp. And then the music stopped. In the article, the chief ranger stated that there was nobody playing any music and that Chris must have been hallucinating. Rangers got on a transport for Chris to Olympic Memorial Hospital. Doctors evaluated him, gave him a meal, said he was in good shape, and let him go home. The article got, this disappearance got a lot of play in Washington. Yeah, the sounds that he heard were pretty interesting. But there was another part of the story. Chris got home and was interviewed by King TV of Seattle. He said he was absolutely shocked that so many people cared about what happened to him and that it was made such a big deal. He said that while he was missing, that he claimed to have heard helicopters, but he wasn't in a clear area to see them. He just heard them. And here's a key point. He claimed to have heard helicopters above him, and he also heard searchers on the ground whistling for him. But he said he was too weak to yell loud enough to get their attention. Time out. Alan Adadero lost his son Jared in the woods in Colorado. He and I ended up being best friends. Alan passed earlier this year from cancer. One of the things that Alan did is when he talked to groups, he brought along whistles for this exact reason. It doesn't take half as much energy to blow a whistle as it is to yell out loud. And so it was one of those tools that he handed out that if you're ever lost, you'd be able to blow the whistle for help. Brilliant idea. Brilliant. Chris said that he was very grateful for the huge effort to find him. And he told the newspaper that he wanted others to learn from his mistake. And he gave a list. He said that when he told his girlfriend his itinerary and left for her, he made a mistake. He said that on that trailhead that he walked in on, there were 3 trails that he could take. And he gave his girlfriend the name of 2 of them, and he took the 3rd one. Mistake number 1. Do what you tell others you're going to do. Mistake number 2, he didn't complete a backcountry permit, which gives the Park Service the insight as to where you're going, how you're going to get there, and what date you're going to be there. He didn't do any of that. Number 3, he said he knew that if you're lost, you're supposed to stay in one place. Don't move around. He said, I violated this rule. He said he was incredibly lucky that the bagpipes led to the searchers. I don't know if you call that luck. I think it's something else. June 19th, search is over. National Park Service has a meeting. And they released that the cost of the search for Chris was $80,000. This is in 97. A lot of that is helicopter time. $1,500 to $2,500 an hour for a helicopter. And they had 2 or 3 on site at a time. That really goes up in price. As an example, you got a helicopter out there for 8 hours at $2,000 an hour. That's $16,000 right there. They stated that the park doesn't have these kind of loose funds for search and rescue is going to have to come out of another budget for fixing trails or something else. And they said that the park doesn't charge a flat fee or any fees for mounting a search and rescue over somebody that's missing. So I got a question. Do you know that you can buy insurance to pay for a search and rescue on somebody if they're missing? Yeah, you can. So here's the question. If you're a hiker and you blatantly break rules, break the law, and you go missing, should you be held civilly responsible for all or part of that search? Now, Chris blatantly broke the rules. He didn't complete a backcountry permit, which if you would have filled one out and he would have been accurate with filling it out, there would have been a quick remedy to this search. But there wasn't. It was a long one. Now, see, Huck heard something out there. Hey, it's okay. Hey, it's okay. It's just, hey, I know, it's, hey, don't be so antsy. It's okay. Yeah, I know. Ooh, she's getting mad. Hey, come here. So I said, the first thing in my world that Chris made a mistake about in 1997, he didn't have a compass and he didn't have a map. Maps are free at national parks. You could get more advanced USGS maps online for all national parks. U.S. Geological Survey, the best maps imaginable. Encourage you to look at their site. They're really good. Nowadays, carry a personal locator beacon, GPS trail guide. Carry that bright orange poncho I told you about. And super important, carry a water purification system. Sometimes these are just straws. You fill your water bottle, stick the straw in, you suck through the straw at the top, purifies the water as you're drinking it. Now, I thought about this case a lot the last couple days. I can't believe that Chris was hallucinating. Sorry, I'm not that gullible. Because if Chris was hallucinating, I ask you this, what would those chances be that that hallucination and him following the sounds led right into the searchers' camp? What are those chances? Can I help you out? They're about 0. That dog don't hunt. Sorry. There's something much bigger at play here. I don't know what it was. But in all of the cases of missing people I've ever researched, I have never heard of anything close to this. And then I thought about what does the pick of the music have to do with this? Bagpipes and flute. I don't know. But you know what I do know? You guys are going to have some real interesting comments about this. And I'm looking forward to reading them. Before I go a lot further, I got to tell you something. In the last 10 days, I have had hundreds of notes and emails from you saying, wow, I didn't even know you were still posting. I never got any notification, and I'm a subscriber on YouTube, but they haven't even told me that you've been posting videos. If you look at the last 10 days, my views have gone like this. Friends, it's because YouTube is absolutely shadow banning me from you guys. When I get hundreds of people saying that they weren't notified, in reality, that equals thousands. I don't know what to do about it. It's killing my channel. They did this again when I went from 45,000 per video of number of people watching, and they dropped me down to 20,000. Then they picked me back up to 25. Now they've dropped me down to about 15 to 20. It's purposeful. The reason I know is because you're saying that you're not notified that the videos are coming out. I have no idea what to do. I've told you before that there's some huge things coming, and I've given you some of those. One I'll give you now. If you haven't seen it already, go to missing411.com. That is our new website, missing411.com. We've been working on it for about 9 months, and it's up and working right now. That is the biggest change for me in 14, 15 years. It's huge. Oh, there's more coming. Missing411.com. Huck says, thanks for being here. Sorry she interrupted you. Maybe that growl woke some of you guys up. I know I saw you sleeping back there. Again, I'll ask you politely, please post this on your social media. Let people see what we're doing. And you can check out our new online store at missing411.com. Yes. And you can follow me on X, where I posted a long thing about the 2 hikers that disappeared in southern Colorado. Follow me at Can-Am Missing. Like at Can-Am, C-A-N as in Nora, A-M Missing. At Can-Am Missing on X. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are great. Kindness. Be kind. We need more of it in our world. Paulides out.